Hello everybody, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sam Francis Lott, or Sam Lott, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Sam Francis Lott. Happy Saturday to everyone. So today, 16th of May 2026, marks the 60th birthday anniversary of a very special album in popular music, Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. It was released on 16th of May 1966, which remarkably is 60 years ago today. I can't believe the album is turning 60, but yes, it is a timeless album. So I'm going to give my thoughts on the album, song by song. And I was lucky I remember the song titles because I've searched around and I can't find my CD copy anyway. So I'm sorry that looks a bit silly because I'm supposed to have it in the video so I could show you. But those of you who I have on Facebook, I've just put something on recently saying my next video will be about Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, and I put a photo of the album cover so you can see what it looks like there. A lot of you music fans have probably seen it already. So without further ado, a bit of history about Pet Sounds and the Beach Boys. Firstly, I'll mention that Brian Wilson, the main composer, songwriter, leader, pretty much of the Beach Boys, wanted to, the Beach Boys, as a lot of you know, have become known for kind of, surf and car songs in their early years, on their early albums and singles. And that's what they'd become synonymous with, really. But Brian he was more into musical production. He was influenced by Phil Spector and the Wall of Sound. And he wanted to make an album which was more sophisticated, moving away from the surf and car songs. Now, if you bear with me a second, now this is something I can show you, thankfully. So, on the subject of the influence for the album, Brian Wilson heard this album, another very great album in pop music, Rubber Soul by the Beatles in December 65. It was released, and he was listening to this album with his first wife, and smoking something, a bit strong, maybe, and he was blown away. He said he was blown away by Rubber Soul, and it gave him the impetus to start writing songs for Pet Sounds on the piano. So Rubber Soul was the main influence, and suddenly he was in competition with the Beatles from across the pond, because they were in Britain, and Brian and the Beach Boys were in California. And the other members, he gave up touring with the other boys. They went on tour to Japan, I think, and while they went, Brian hired the Wrecking Crew. They were great session musicians in California who'd worked on Phil Spector records, Frank Sinatra, etc. Who Brian was a big fan of both those artists, and he hired them, and they brought in all kinds of instruments then which he could utilize on Pet Sounds. And it was recorded in some studios in Los Angeles. So I'm going to get into the songs, which luckily, as I say, I can remember. Good job, mate. I got good memory with a lot of things, but with music as well. Let's take a sip of tea and we'll get on to the song by song. Right. So, song number 1, side 1 of Pet Sounds, Wouldn't It Be Nice? Fantastic opening song. It's very upbeat. It's a really upbeat pop single. It was released as a single, and it's very catchy, but it's also about, the themes of the album, really. They call it like an early concept album, kind of about, Brian was only 23 when he wrote it, but he got married young, and he was young, and, it was about love and kind of lost love, and it's about finding yourself, I suppose, and that's the themes of the album. And Wouldn't It Be Nice explores, wouldn't it be nice if we were older? So think planning ahead for your future, and just, you know, the harmonies straight away and the instrumentation, the harpsichord on here. There's different interesting mix of instruments like beneath the surface, which make it more of an interesting pop song. And the bridge is very nice, and the bridge kind of inspired Paul McCartney with to write Here, There and Everywhere on the Beatles' Revolver album, 66, a few months after Pet Sounds was released. That similar vibe, you know. You Still Believe in Me is the next song. Slower number. Again, nice harmonies. And the interesting thing to point out at the start of this song, technical fact, is that the do 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 do, like that melody at the start, that was inside of the piano. This do 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 do, the bits you can pluck with your hands, like that was, I think Brian did that, and he hummed on top of it. That's what creates the sound at the start of the song number 2, You Still Believe in Me. It's very nice harmonies again. It's about, being a bit insecure, when you're in a relationship and kind of, that kind of thing. That's Not Me is the next song, which is kind of simple, not simplistic, but kind of simple, like background-wise, music-wise, compared to the other songs. There's not a great amount of production on it, but it's got an organ, and Mike Love sings on this one, actually, the kind of Brian's cousin who's the lead singer. Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder, next song. Lovely arrangement. Very nice, the strings which build throughout the song, the melody, Brian's vocals, kind of haunting as well, quality to it. Again, the production, throughout the album is brilliant. Brian Wilson produced the album, of course. I'm Waiting for the Day is the next song, which has, I think Brian said he wanted to have a song with a lot of percussion on drums, and it starts off with the punchy drums from Hal Blaine, who's a session musician with the Wrecking Crew, a percussionist. And yeah, Brian sings about another love song, but it's nice, and there's some interesting instruments, like there's a clarinet on here. Let's Go Away for a While. I'll see you later. No, I'd love to go on holiday. No, that's the name of the next track. Which is an instrumental. There's 2 instrumentals on here. This is the first of the 2. And it's nice. It takes inspiration kind of from Burt Bacharach and some of the early production of, like Frank Sinatra's records, maybe, from the 50s. And it's nice. It's quite... some people describe the album as psychedelic pop, in some extent, I suppose. But this kind of is a bit tinge of psychedelia on here. It was that era in the 60s, and the musicians do a good job. It's kind of like it's very chilled out, but it's kind of, there's horns on here, and there's timpani, percussion, different instruments. Take another sip of tea. Not beer. Trying to be good. It's a bit early. And stir. Right. The last song on side 1, track number 7, Sloop John B, which was recorded first on Pet Sounds. It's a traditional folk song which Brian put an arrangement to make it a Beach Boys style song. We come on the sloop John B. It's very up tempo again, and I've heard some people say it doesn't fit in with the theme of the album because it's not about the themes of lost love, whatever the themes are, on the album, love and that kind of thing. But I enjoy it, and it kind of adds a bit of, it does add variety, but it's catchy, and the arrangement's good, production again, the harmonies throughout the song. I don't have a problem with it. Sloop John B. So, if we were playing a record now, we'd flip over to side 2. I can't find my vinyl record of Pet Sounds. It's a shame, I have to buy a new one. I want to get an original. But yes, back on topic. Right, God Only Knows. Side 2, opening. Fantastic. The best song on here, probably. And Paul McCartney said this was his favourite song of all time. That's very rich praise coming from him. And God Only Knows is such a... God only knows what I'd be without you. I'm singing again. It's, we all know the song. It's such a lovely song. The arrangement again, there's French horn and there's the clarinet, different instruments again. And Carl Wilson, Brian's younger brother, takes the lead vocal. Brian wrote it, he had Carl in mind, and Carl, such a nice voice on the song, and a lot of Beach Boys songs actually, before and after. And yeah, it builds at the middle bit. Ba, 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 ba. The last verse, the bit at the end with the overlapping, the overlapping harmonies. God only knows what I'd be without God only, and it overlaps until it fades out. Yeah, it's very, very great piece of music. God only knows. I know there's an answer. Will you tell me the answer? That's the next song on the album. Got a bit of comedy in these videos, you see, keeps the momentum going. I know there's an answer. Yes, the next song is kind of based on the working title of the song from Brian was Hang On To Your Ego, which Mike loved his cousin, so there's a bit of disagreement because he saw it as a ego being a drug reference, because Brian was taking LSD, as a lot of bands were, the Beatles, and a lot of artists were taking LSD. It was the drug of the time, hallucinogenic, trippy. And there's a line in here, they trip through the day and waste all their thoughts at night, which is kind of blatant drug reference, really. I know there's an answer. Yeah, it's an interesting song. It's catchy, but also which I didn't know till recently, is the middle, the solo bit. I thought it was like a horn or something, but it's actually a bass harmonica with like a ukulele in the background. So the way Brian, that's one of the great things about Pet Sounds, is like just the instrumentation, the production, and the way he blends these instruments together, which I will say more about. Here Today is the next song. Here Today, it starts with just a little glimpse. That's Mike Love singing lead. Brian sings on most of these. It could be more of a Brian Wilson solo album, really. He produced it, but there's he gives other members lead vocal parts, and Mike sings on this. And yeah, it's very... it's a nice pop song. And interesting, to talk about the instrumentation on Here Today, the middle bit, where Brian later said he was very proud of, when he mixes there's a bass, dum, 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 and an organ, he mixes the sounds together. And it does create a really interesting sound in the middle of the song. And I very much like that, and is used to good effect, it is. Here Today. The next song, I Just Wasn't Made for These Times, which is a very personal song from Brian. It's about kind of, well, I think a lot of us can relate, like fitting in with people, having the right friends, feeling isolated from people as well, which loneliness and stuff, which is like common. I think Brian struggled with that a lot, but a lot of people do everyone does around the planet, and and he sings like, sometimes I feel very sad. The chorus is very relatable. And again, to talk about the instrumentation, there's a very weird, unusual instrument on here which hadn't been used in popular music before. It was the electric theremin. Just like a weird sound, but it used to be used in the old sci-fi movies when the spaceship arrived back in the 30s, and Brian used it here. And I don't even think the Beatles used that as an instrument. So that was just very inventive, and is used to good effect again on I Just Wasn't Made for These Times. Great song. So we get to the penultimate song, the last but one, which is another instrumental, Pet Sounds, the title track, also the name of the album, of course. This is kind of like takes inspiration from Exotica. There's like maracas, and it sounds kind of like, I think Brian wanted it to be in a James Bond theme song in the James Bond, for James Bond film. That was his intention. I think the working title was Run James Run, but it never got used in a Bond movie. But I can see it would have fitted in. And yeah, it's interesting, it's intriguing again, and the exotica South American, whatever, vibe to it, if that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense. Are you making sense, Sam? Yes, I hope so. Let's take another sip before I get on to the last song. And I've just got a couple more things to note. Right, okay. The last song on Pet Sounds, Caroline No. Lovely song, lovely ending song. The melody, I think it was about Brian's wife. I think she cut her hair. That's where the lyric comes from. Where did your long hair go? Where is the girl I used to know? When he sings that, it's referring to the when that happened. And it's really nice, and it's nice moving into the middle eight. So sad to watch a sweet thing. Oh, Caroline. I can't sing it as well as Brian could back then, but I can try my best. Caroline No. And the interesting thing as well, Caroline No, is the ending where we have the literal pet sounds, sound effects with Brian's dog, Banana, I think his name was. You can hear him barking, woof, woof, and there's sound of like so the dog sounds and also the train sounds and stuff, which ends the album, which is quite experimental, as is a lot of the album. So that's Pet Sounds. I wish I could have a physical copy to show you right now, but Facebook followers, I'll put it on Instagram actually. I'll put a photo there. Try and put it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll try and put a link to this video as well, hopefully. Yeah, one or two more things to say. So Pet Sounds obviously is a timeless piece of art, really. More than just a pop album. It influenced many artists and bands in the future over the last 60 years up until now, and including, probably most notably, Paul McCartney and John Lennon, who heard the album when it was brought over to London in '66. They loved it straight away. And Paul McCartney has said it's one of his favourite albums, and it's inspired. It was the main influence for this little album here. You might have heard of. It's called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. Those four. So that's quite something. So Brian Wilson, yeah, sadly he's no longer with us. He passed away last June at the age of 82, but he was a great genius and a great songwriter, composer, arranger, musician, and rest in peace to him. And happy 60th birthday to the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds album. Very special album, very great in pop music. All pop music fans should listen to it. Yeah. Yes, as usual, I hope you enjoy this video. And as usual, again, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Most importantly,